Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Rob from the Area 51 Racing Podcast coming to you today to give you my race recap from the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez road course in Mexico City, Mexico from this past weekend for the NASCAR Xfinity Series and NASCAR Cup Series. I'll also be giving you my Rob's Racing hot takes from this past week in NASCAR. We'll start out with the NASCAR Xfinity Series and Jeremy Clements Race Report. Again, this is episode 79. The NASCAR Xfinity Series and Race Report for Jeremy Clements Racing. The Xfinity Series last raced at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez road course in 2005 through 2008. So it had been, 17 years, if my math is correct, since they had been their last Xfinity Series. Practice and qualifying was moved to Saturday because Friday there were flight delays for several teams. And as a result, NASCAR moved everything, practice qualifying and the race, to Saturday for the Xfinity Series. The pole winner for the Xfinity race was Connor Zilisch in the number 88 Junior Motorsports Chevy. Jeremy Clements practice, he ran a total of 12 laps. He battled radio issues with the spotters, communication with his crew chief Case Kallenbach, and then also their communication with Jeremy in the car. The track is only 2.4 miles long. It's not that big of a track. The issue is that it's a long, elongated track. So there was a lot of distance between where the pit box was and then the spotters that they had, which I believe there were 4 spotters for the race. The other issue is the track's at 7,300 feet above sea level, so the air is thinner. So you have issues with the communication with that, plus the distance in between the spotters, the driver, the race car, and then obviously the pit box where the crew chief and car chief are located in the pit crew. So they were battling issues with the radios, and then Jeremy said that during practice, his car was really just not running great. It was really super sluggish. Case and Jeremy talked, and they decided that they needed to change their gear in the car. And Case also advised that they had contact the Hendrick Motorsports tech to come and adjust the carb jets on the carburetor to compensate for the thin air at the racetrack, so the car would run better. They weren't able to change the gear before qualifying. However, they did after qualifying, and it was considered a approved adjustment since it was a new racetrack for the series to go to. So fortunately, they didn't have to go to the rear for an unapproved adjustment. Jeremy qualified P19. He did say that he had way more grip than they did on the sim when doing the sim work, and but they still had some balance and handling issues to work on for the race. Jeremy started the race P19. On lap 3, there was a caution for a wreck. Jeremy radioed Case advising that the car is a little tight, and then he was also having transmission issues as the car was not staying in third gear. Case gave Jeremy some suggestions to try to see if the boot over the shifting lever was possibly sticking, causing it to not be able to go all the way into gear. Jeremy said he tried to pull on it as best he could, but he wasn't able to reach that far because of his seatbelts to fully see if it would work. Case advised that they were going to stay out because they didn't want to give up the track position. Lap 6 on the restart, Jeremy didn't even make a lap. His car started smoking badly, and he radioed in that there is a transmission fluid spraying everywhere. They got the car back to the pits. Took the car directly to the team hauler, and at that time, the team went to work to change the transmission. They finished stage 1 P39, 14 laps down. Stage 2, they were still in the garage, or I should say at the hauler, changing the transmission. The team got the transmission back in, and Jeremy is back on track on lap 28, which was just phenomenal for them to remove the transmission, get a new one in, and everything hooked up and working properly. Kudos to the team for working their asses off and getting that done. That's just amazing. Jeremy went out to enter the track, and NASCAR radioed Case and said, "Hey, you guys had a pit road penalty for speed." So Jeremy had to do a drive-through. He drives through the pits on the next lap, and NASCAR advised he had another pit road penalty for speeding. So I had to do another drive-through. During that stage, they worked on the car a little bit, or had a plan to work on the car a little bit to help it handle a little bit and try to get as many points as they could, and places that they could make up through attrition. They ended up finishing stage 2, P39, 23 laps down. At the end of stage 2, the caution, Jeremy radioed Case saying that his brakes are going away really bad and that he has to pump them to get them to work. Case said, we're going to stay out to take the wave around to get one of our laps back, and we'll hope for a caution. He told Jeremy that whatever broke in the transmission, it went through the side plate and wedged between the side plate and the transmission mount bracket. He said that they had to loosen the bracket to get the transmission out as a result, to get the piece out to allow enough room for them to get the transmission loose to remove it from the car and put a new one in. Basically, like I said, Jeremy's and team's plan was to ride around, be smart, try to get as many spots back as they could for as many points as they possibly could, and allow other teams to exit the race through wrecking or parts failure through attrition. They actually were able to gain 3 spots on track, and ultimately finish the race P36, 22 laps down. Again, huge kudos to Jeremy Clements, his team, pit crew, everybody on that team. Their no quit mentality, their hard work, their dedication, definitely shows and paid off in this case to get him back out on track. He made up 3 spots. They very easily could have said, screw it, mailed it in for the day and said, we're done. But they didn't do that, and they got everything out of the race and the car that they could. That is why we at the Area 51 Racing Podcast are big Jeremy Clements Racing fans and supporters. Not only because of their no quit mentality, having great team, great partners, because they're just great people in general. And they're a small team, and they do whatever they can. They do the best with what they have, and they succeed to whatever level they're able to. And like I said, me, Dave, and Bobby are extremely proud to be Jeremy Clements Racing fans and supporters. The overall report for the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, Ty Gibbs, NASCAR Cup Series regular, was driving the number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, and Connor Zilich, the pole sitter in the number 88 Junior Motorsports Chevy, were the dominant cars for a majority of the race until they were involved in an on-track incident on lap 47 in turn 3 in stage 3. That took them both out of contention for the win. There was a big wreck on both sides of the track. In fact, it was funny. Jeremy said that when he went by, he said, "Oh, he saw that the wreck happened." He said, radioed into the spotter, and after he cleared the wreck area, he said that looked like fun. Said that there's shit everywhere, all over the track from the wreck. There's multiple cars involved, and so that helped. Obviously, that incident helped Jeremy gain a little more spots and some points because some cars were out of the race as a result of that. Connor Zilisch restarted P28 on lap 52 of 60 laps, or I'm sorry, 65 laps in the race. In 11 laps, or by lap 63, he was able to work his way up to P4. So he made up 24 positions in 11 laps. And then ultimately, once he got up to P4, he faded back to to finish the race in P5. I honestly think Zilisch, if he hadn't been involved in that late race, in my opinion, he wins the race hands down. He had a hot rod. His car was on rails, and that kid is a very, very talented driver and very, very good road course, street course racer. It sucked that, he obviously had the best car, but unfortunately, the best car doesn't always win. You have to finish the race, as they say, first in order to win. So on a late restart on lap 62, when that big wreck happened, Daniel Suarez driving the number 9 Junior Motorsports Chevy. Daniel Suarez is a Cup Series regular. He drives for Trackhouse Racing in the 99 Chevy. He and Taylor Gray, the driver in number 54 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota, battled it out. In turn 2, Suarez and Gray's cars made contact with each other, forcing Suarez into the grass and off course, causing Suarez's car to miss turn 3. Suarez re-entered the track in front of Gray in the lead. NASCAR didn't penalize Suarez for missing the corner, as they ruled that Gray forced Suarez off the course. Therefore, Suarez was deemed the leader. And ultimately, as a result of Suarez getting the lead in front of Gray wasn't able to catch up to him, and Suarez ended up winning the race. The crowd was electric, as Suarez had just won the race in his home country of Mexico. It was a good race. It was fun to watch. The track was really cool. The cool part is the track actually goes, if you didn't watch the race, one part of the track goes through a actual big stadium area where the grandstands are, and it's split in half, and the track goes right through the middle of it. It's pretty cool. And then there's some section going into the stadium that is right there in the center of the stadium. It sort of looks like a baseball stadium with a racetrack going through the center of it. I guess that's my best description of it. But it was pretty cool, and it was cool to see Daniel Suarez win the race in his home country of Mexico. I know Taylor Gray has been knocking on the door at several races. He just hasn't been able to close the door and get the win, which I feel bad for him because he's a really good young racer. And he very easily could have dumped Suarez again after he forced Suarez off track, and he didn't. So I give him props for that. As far as like I said, the Xfinity race, I thought was a really good race. But I also think Xfinity races are good for the most part. It's my favorite series. Obviously, if you watch our podcast and watch my episodes, I'm a huge Xfinity Series race fan. Not just because I'm a fan of Jeremy Clements Racing, but also just the cars and racing is a lot better in my opinion. The NASCAR Cup Series report. It's the first time the Cup Series has ever raced at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez road course in Mexico City, which really surprised me because I thought they had raced there before, but maybe I was thinking of the racetrack in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. But maybe they haven't raced there either. I don't know. But either way, I did not watch the race again as I do not have Amazon Prime subscription. I did watch replay videos. I keep track of the timeline on the NASCAR app on my phone. Sunday I was sick. In fact, this whole weekend I've been under the weather. So I slept all day on Sunday anyways. So I wouldn't have watched the race anyways. I'm just today is finally first day since probably last Thursday where I'm actually got some energy and feeling better. So on that note, qualifying was on Saturday. Shane Van Gisbergen was on the pole. And so no surprise, Shane Van Gisbergen, the road course street racing phenom wonder from the Supercar series from Australia and New Zealand, won the race by 16.567 seconds over second place Christopher Bell, the driver number 20, Joe Gibbs Racing, Toyota. That is just crazy. It's the largest margin of victory in a Cup Series race since November 2009 at Texas, and the largest for a road course race since Riverside in June 1979. And then that information is per the NASCAR.com app. SVG is also the second ever NASCAR driver to win two inaugural races. Obviously, you run the Chicago Street Race in 2023, and then this inaugural race 2025 at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez Road Course in Mexico City. The only other driver in NASCAR history to do this was Marvin Porter when he won in San Jose in 1957 and at Marchbanks in 1960. Again, this information I got from NASCAR.com off the app. That is crazy. That blows my mind. And basically, the story of the race was the weather. It rained. So teams had to decide if they were going to put wet tires on or if they were run slicks. So that changed up their pit strategy. I do know that as soon as the rain happened, NASCAR did a competition caution basically to allow the teams to put wet tires on if they wanted to. Then they went from there. So it played into wet tire, slick tire strategy, pit strategy, fuel strategy. I mean, it sounded like it was a decent race. But SVG and some of the other drivers basically got sick. They had got a stomach bug while they were down, obviously, in Mexico, which is not uncommon for some people drinking water, eating food down there. You can get sick. It's a common occurrence that not just these race car drivers have experienced, but other people that I personally know that have gone on vacation there have said. So SVG was actually one of them that was sick. He said that he was leaking from both ends and was given some anti-nausea medicine that didn't kick in until the end of stage 1. I cannot imagine if he was 100%, how much bigger of a lead he would have had over Christopher Bell. I mean, that just blows my mind. The dude is basically puking and pooping his pants and sicker than a dog, and he's able to lay an ass whooping down by almost 17 seconds over second place. And it just tells you how good of a driver on road courses, street courses, SVG is. Other drivers also were battling stomach bug. I saw a social media post. Was Noah Gragson. He posted that he hoped he didn't shit his pants during the race. Ryan Blaney, same thing. In fact, I think it was Bob Podcast or one of the other NASCAR people on social media had posted that Blaney said he hoped he didn't poop his pants in the car because he had a white race suit. And then that, I think it was Podcast, like I said, or one of the journalists checked with him and asked Blaney if he pooped his pants during the race, and Blaney turned around and showed him his butt, and it was obviously clear, no signs that he did. So Blaney was obviously making light of the situation where he doesn't feel good, and then apparently also Ross Chastain, based on social media posts, was also not feeling great. So I give props to all those drivers. I mean, that's a lot of punishment on your body. You're 7,300 feet above sea level, so the air is thinner. So your body is you're going to breathe harder. You're not going to get as much oxygen. You're depleting your red blood cell count, is my understanding based on some of the stuff I've heard, because the oxygen is, the air is thinner, the oxygen is lower. So not only are you battling that, but you're also battling a stomach bug. So kudos to these athletes that were able to race and sustain their high level of performance, or the best that they could during the race, and finish the race. As far as the NASCAR race goes, the Cup race, that's my report. I'll get into Rob's racing hot takes. My first hot take is basically a review of the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez race. Overall, I think the event was a success, even though several Xfinity and Cup teams had issues with their flights that were chartered by NASCAR to get them to Mexico City. Had issues. One of the planes actually on takeoff had the engine blow up. One report was possibly from a bird strike. Another was it was just an engine failure. Thank God it happened on takeoff before they got in the air. And then another plane that was chartered wasn't able to take off because it didn't have the proper paperwork needed to fly to Mexico. As a result, NASCAR had to reschedule and adjust the schedule for the Xfinity Series practice on Friday and move everything to Saturday, because teams weren't able to get there until late Friday night, early Saturday morning. And this also affected some of the Cup teams as well, as they had practice on Friday and Saturday. And some of the Cup teams were also affected, as they didn't have their spotters, engineers, pit crew members, etc., until later on Saturday. Like I said before, the track was cool with it going through the middle of the stadium grandstands. The Xfinity Series race was really good and fun to watch. The attendance looked decent, but there were sections of empty grandstands that they showed on the replays that I saw. It'll be interesting to see if NASCAR goes back to Mexico or goes to the Montreal, Canada road course, or to another country for that matter. I know some people were asking for. Give me a minute. I'm sorry, my dog's barking. Sorry for that interruption. There are some people on social media. I know Mamba Smith on the Kevin Harvick's Happy Podcast. They talked about this thing and possibly about going international. He mentioned about Brazil, Australia, somewhere in Europe, possibly. It'll be interesting to see what NASCAR does. I mean, NASCAR obviously wants to expand their footprint internationally. I understand it, but at the same time, does the cost outweigh the gains that they're going to get? So somebody with a pay grade higher than me as a race fan and a podcaster obviously is going to have to make that decision. But I must say, I thought this race was cool. The course was really cool, and the reaction of the drivers that I've seen enjoyed it. They liked being in Mexico City, and and experiencing the culture and the racetrack. So I guess we'll wait and see. My second racing hot take for this week: Carson Hocevar strikes again. Carson Hocevar and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Part 2. Carson Hocevar, driver of the number 71 Spire Motorsports Chevy, was a lap down, and on lap 90 in stage 3, spun the number 47 Chevy, Hayek Motorsports Chevy of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the stadium section of the course. This is the second time in 3 weeks. Nashville was the first race that Hocevar dumped Stenhouse Jr., and they had a conversation after that. On pit road post-race, Stenhouse Jr. walked over to Hocevar while he was still in his car. Stenhouse Jr. leaned in with his left arm in the car and his head in the car, and in Hocevar's face, and told Hocevar clearly on audio, on the video, "I am going to beat your ass when we get back in the States." He then smacked Hocevar in the visor with his left hand and walked away. Hocevar, after he got out of his car, said he didn't mean to hit Stenhouse Jr. He said he hit the curb, which caused him to get in the marbles and slide through the corner into Stenhouse Jr.'s car. Hocevar said he turned left to try to avoid hitting Stenhouse Jr., but it didn't work, and he still unfortunately hit him. I am guessing Stenhouse Jr. refrained from getting into any physical altercation with Hocevar at the track, and because they were in Mexico and he didn't want to risk being arrested by the Mexican federales and end up having to stay in Mexico and face prosecution for assault in Mexico. So I guess we will see what happens between Stenhouse Jr. and Hocevar, and see if NASCAR intervenes, or if they're going to wait to see if Ricky sticks to his word and beats Stenhouse, or I should say Hocevar's ass. I haven't heard anything that an incident happened between the two of them yet. So, and I know that obviously they're back in the United States by now. So, I guess we'll have to wait and see until this weekend's race at Pocono, see if something happens there. And then my third Rob's Racing hot take for this week: NASCAR has announced another gimmick for the Cup Series, which is the in-season tournament that starts on June 28th at Echo Park, which is the former Atlanta Motor Speedway. The tournament seeding process has started with the Michigan race, this past weekend's race at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez Road Course, and ends this weekend at Pocono Raceway. The top 32 drivers will be seeded by the driver's best finish in these 3 races. If there's a tie between drivers, tiebreakers are next best finish in their the second race. So the first and second race finishes, and then the third tiebreaker would be overall finish in all 3 of the races by the drivers. The tournament is set up much like the NCAA basketball tournament, with the winner taking home the $1 million prize. So, for example, driver seeded number 1 would face driver seeded number 32, and then the winner would move on to the next bracket, and they would go down until they have the final 2, and then the winner. So there's 5 tracks for this in-season tournament. The first race, like I said, is on June 28th at Echo Park, or the former Atlanta Motor Speedway. Round 2 is at Chicago Street Race. Round 3 is Sonoma Raceway. Round 4 is Dover Motor Speedway. And round 5 is Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's a couple reasons why I think NASCAR is doing this. Obviously, it's a gimmick, in my opinion. And I know other people think this is a gimmick too. However, I think they're trying to get more excitement and interest from fans to watch the sport, and then also possibly drivers, during this mid, summer stretch of races. It's going to be interesting to see, though, how drivers are going to race each other to advance in this tournament versus race for points to get into the playoffs. Some drivers that, are outside the bubble need points, obviously, to try to get in that top 16. So 16 of these drivers are not in the playoffs. 16 of these drivers are. So it's going to be interesting to see how they race each other. I mean, there could be some drivers wrecking other drivers or whatever to advance in this tournament because they have a chance at $1 million, whereas they know they have no chance at getting in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, to me it's a gimmick, but I'm worth giving it a chance and seeing what happens and how it goes. So, but basically that's my my reports for this week and my hot takes. Episode 79 was brought to you by Driven Sunglasses and Driven Trackside. Driven Sunglasses and Driven Trackside is a small business owned and operated by Nick Thames and Scotty Banks. They sell quality sunglasses and apparel. Plus, they make crew shirts and hats for race teams. I'm wearing a crew shirt, the Flying Forum Miami Homestead Jeremy Clements Racing crew shirt from last year. As you can see, they're high quality, awesome, comfortable shirts that they make. Go to their website at www.drivensunglasses.com to check out their products. Also follow them on their social media sites on Facebook, X, and Instagram. And if you're a race team looking for a sponsorship, give Nick and Scotty a message on one of their platforms, or look for an email address on their website. And they sponsor a lot of drivers in the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and other racing series through their sunglass program. And then the drivers get a discount code. So when you make a purchase, you can enter their code to get a percentage off of your order. They also obviously do, like I said, these crew shirts. They do also hats. I know they do them for sure for RFK Racing and the Cup Series. They do great work, pretty fast turnaround time for shipping. So give Nick and Scotty I should say shoot them a message if you're interested in any of those products. Thanks for listening this afternoon. I will be back with Bobby and Dave later this evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, as we have Kevin Harrison of Harrison's Western Wear and Apparel Store on as our guest tonight. We're going to talk with Kevin about his business, the business of Harrison's, how he got involved in racing, how he got involved with Jeremy Clements Racing, and then also about our 100th episode plans that we're going to be doing at their Spartanburg, South Carolina store in this September. So please join in tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, for our podcast. To end this episode, I want to thank our listeners for listening. Without you, our listeners, viewers, and our partners, sponsors, Bobby, Dave, and I are not able to do this. We greatly appreciate all the support. And like I said, we couldn't do this without y'all. So on that note, thank you to our sponsors, Spartan Waste, Fox Sports Spartanburg, Harrison's, Action RV, Kylie Glick Racing, Mattman Designs, The Runner's Roost, Alliance Driveway Solutions, and More Designs, Circle B Diecast, Driven Sunglasses and Driven Trackside, Elite Towing and Recovery, High Speed Auto, The Racing Warehouse and Armadillo Apparel, Belcher Cheesecake Creations, Flying Foreign Concrete Structures, Golly Beard Products, Wings, etc., Dialed In Focus Pouches by Whitetail Smokeless, Benzik Designs, Schanzenbach Landscaping, Enigma Tattoo Studio, Aero Parts Group, Overwear Apparel Group LLC, and Jeremy Clements and Jeremy Clements Racing. Again, without all our sponsors and partners, our listeners, viewers, we're not able to do any of this. Bobby, Dave, and I greatly thank you and appreciate it. We'll see you this evening for episode 80, but this is the end of episode 79. Remember to get out there and support your local racetrack and drivers. You never know, you may be seeing your future NASCAR superstar. On that note, take care and have a great rest of your afternoon. See you later. This is Rob from the Area 51 Racing Podcast. This concludes